Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to our very first co-ownership webinar that we're having. And my name is Dean Otto and I am one of the co-founders of Cohana Homes. And we also have Noah Kirschbaum here. Maybe you can wave, Noah, so we can see you. Noah is also a co-founder and also very involved with that co-ownership program. He lives in Lake Oswego in Portland, Oregon. So he covers a lot of our mainland areas and is also involved in Maui and Kauai and Big Island with us as well. So welcome. Just want to make sure no one missing not missing anyone. Perfect. Great, man. We've got a good group of people from all over the country and several of our local agents that we're working with to partner with and selling their properties. We currently have, oh, here's one. We currently have 15 listings on Maui, which is pretty awesome. It's really been picking up. And I think that the reason we're getting so much interest in the co-ownership option right now is because of the market. You know, if you look at our current market, man, we have some challenges right now, and it's consistent, right? We talk to people across the country every day, and everyone's sort of in the same boat, which is the markets have cooled off, slowings have slowed down, transactions are down. On Maui, our market, if you look at the end of August statistics versus last August, our number of sales is down 16.8%. Our medium sales price is down 20.2%. We're running at about a 20% decline from last year as we progress through the year here. And the number of listings is up 14%. So that's a very common story we hear from everyone every day about their markets and sort of a general cooling off and the market cycle being in a little bit of a downward trend right now for the next few years. So everyone is sort of searching for new ideas and new solutions, and we have one that we think is a great option, particularly in with the timing of the market. And you know, we see real opportunity here. The NAR came out with a statistic recently that says that 7 million buyers have now stepped out of the market to the sidelines, right? So that's a really interesting statistic. We have about 4 million sales per year in the US. And according to NAR, we have 7 million buyers have now gone to the sidelines to sort of wait and watch and see what happens. You know, waiting for prices to adjust, waiting for interest rates to adjust, whatever it is. The challenge for us is $7 million buyers on the sidelines and 4 million sales in the next year. So that's a challenge, but it's
Let
also
me
a great
know when it
opportunity.
stops buffering.
Uh-oh, who's that? Someone can mute, please, if you don't mind. Um, but it's a challenge, but it's also a great opportunity. You know, 7 million buyers who can't make sense out of this market is kind of interesting, right? In the sense that, so what are we going to do about that? I mean, are we going to continue to do the same things that they can't make sense out of anymore? And the reason why they've gone to the sidelines? Or are we going to think outside the box and be a little creative and come up with some new solutions? And for us, it's about new solutions and solving problems and manufacturing transactions. So how does co-ownership work is probably the everyone waiting to hear about. But I think ultimately it's a simple concept. What we do at Cohana Homes is we partner with real estate agents like yourselves who have listings that they're trying to sell. Maybe they aren't getting enough activity or sitting on the market too long. And we partner with those agents to be able to offer a creative option for them. And what we do is we basically facilitate the creation of an LLC partnership to purchase your listing. So it's 2 to 4 members typically is what we do. And we facilitate the creation of the LLC. We have all the LLC documents and operating agreements and all. So we're pulling together people in these second home markets like Maui, where people are coming and going, and the average use for most of our people is 2 months a year. So this is a challenge that Maui has faced throughout my 30-year career. And over the 30 years, I've been trying to find ways to put people together and partnership together for people who are only going to be here 2 months a year and are looking at buying, in many cases, in my business, 10 to $20 million properties. And that's been a challenge. It's not a challenge during the booming time, but it is a challenge when the markets slow down. And I'm looking at the next 5 years and how I'm going to make my fortune over the next 5 years by being a little bit creative and a little bit outside the box and getting some attention here. Let me just let this guy in. Thank you. So what we do is when we facilitate the creation of an LLC, we always have a set exit for the partnership. So it is a partnership arrangement and a sharing arrangement where 2 to 4 members come together and they share the use of the property, they share the expenses, and they share ownership. And when we put this LLC together, we normally create a set term. A popular term is 5 years, okay? And I'll just use that as an example, but it could be whatever the group of owners decides. But if you enter into an LLC with Cohana Homes, you're going to have a set term. And at the end of that term, let's say 5 years, we're going to come back to this group and they're going to have 3 options at the expiration of the 5-year term. Number one option would be for the group to unanimously agree to extend and continue on as long as they're happy and are enjoying it. We'll go as long as they want to go. If it doesn't work out that way, and maybe one partner wants to sell or 2 want to sell, we'll have the option of a buyout arrangement with a priority list that's set in advance. So it's either you extend the term with the unanimous agreement, or if it's not unanimous, we have an option to buy each other out and continue on. But so ultimately, there is a set term and there is a way to get out of our partnership. And I think that's typically, it's going to be one of the 2 options of extending, buyout option to extend, or if we can't have a unanimous agreement, we put the property on the market and it goes on the market to sell. So we do not do timeshare. We do not do fractional. We don't break the property up into pieces and try and resell them. We have a set exit date so that everyone agrees in advance to sell together in the future, which means that we stay in the lane of whole ownership, which is what you guys are doing every day, right? So we're building a partnership into the front end for a set period like 5 years with an agreement between those partners to sell together in the future. It could be at the 5-year term, or it could be as long as the group is willing to continue on and everyone is happy and wants to continue on. So it's kind of a simple concept. It's a little complicated putting the deals together because basically what we do is we're bringing together often people who don't know each other into a partnership. So there's a whole nother level of detail that goes into what we're doing. And our agreements are very extensive and very detailed because of the reason that we're putting strangers together. And so, for people, generally speaking, there's 2 reasons why people don't want to do partnerships. One of them is that they want to know how to get out of it. Number one, first thing everyone asks is, how do I get out of this partnership? The second thing is that most of these co-owners don't want to have to interact with each other if something goes wrong. For example, something breaks, someone doesn't send a check, someone doesn't pay their bill. No one wants to be that partner getting on the phone, contacting the other partners to figure out what went wrong, who didn't pay, or how that, who broke what. So what we do is we facilitate the creation of the partnership. We provide all the legal documents to put the LLC together to purchase the property. And then we stay on as the LLC manager through the set term. If it's 5 years, we stay on through the 5 years and we handle all communications between the partners. So the partners, in a case that we have in Kauai right now, we have 4 partners there that have never talked to each other before. If they have a question or concern, they call us. We facilitate the conversation between the partners, and then we get back to that co-owner and tell them what the result was. We operate on a unanimous agreement generally to change our existing structure that we put in place up front. So, again, for you as an agent, there's a couple options where you can participate. One is if you have a listing that you're trying to sell and it's not moving or it's sitting on the market too long, we can come in and partner with you and energize and bring more exposure and more interest, more conversations. People are very intrigued by this idea that you can buy a $4 million house for $1 million and have a 25% co-ownership interest in this property, knowing that in 5 years' time, you're either going to extend because everyone wants to, or you're going to sell the property and you'll get your portion back, so to speak. So it's kind of a simple concept. It's a sharing arrangement when a partnership LLC agreement with a set exit that everyone agrees in advance to sell together in the future. It could be 5 years, could be 10 years, whatever the group decides. So that's just kind of a basic framework of how this works. Um, I guess it begs the question, how do we find buyers, right? And what we do typically is Cohana Homes in partnership with an agent. And we have listings, by the way, all over the country. And we've taken listings in Italy, France, Honduras, Mexico. So we've kind of gotten into an international market as well, right? Any location where people are only going there part-time is going to be a good market for us. We have properties in Vail, Colorado. Colorado is a popular market. Utah, popular market for us. We have a bunch of listings in Oregon. We have listings in Rhode Island, Florida, Texas, California, and Kauai, Maui, and the Big Island. So we have a bunch of listings, and it's the challenge for us right now is trying to find buyers. So the 15 listings that we have on Maui, we have several cases. We have one or two co-owners, and we're looking for two more. And so we're out there trying to hustle and sell Maui properties in partnership with agents, many of whom are on this call right now. I know Katie Foxwell on this call. We just listed two listings with her. One is a Montage at Kapalua Bay, one of the premier condominium properties on Maui, and that one is listed for 4.25 million, and we'll be offering 1,080,000 25% interest for four lucky co-owners to join together and share in the use and ownership of this amazing Montage property. And we also have one in Wailea at Ho'olea, which is an amazing condo complex that has all kinds of great amenities in connection to the Grand Wailea. It's also a very popular concept too, and that one is listed for 5.25 million, and we'll be listing 25% co-ownership interest for 1,335,000. So for you, as a buyer's agent or an agent with a database, as the market slows down and sales are a little harder to come by, you have the opportunity to go to your database in search of people who can afford 1,335,000 for this incredible $5.25 million property. For a buyer, it's an amazing chance to leverage your buying power. You wouldn't be able to buy anything for 1,335,000 in Wailea, but this gives you an opportunity to be in one of the premier complexes and share in this arrangement in a $5.25 million property. So yeah, super exciting for us. We're having a tremendous response to it. We're getting calls every day for new listings around the country, and the concept is becoming very popular. All right. We coined the phrase, Cohana is where R&R meets ROI, because we're drawing in investors and legitimate real estate investments because of the exit strategy that we have. This is a regular real estate play just like any other. Instead of investing 5.25 million, you're only investing 1,335,000, but you're reaping the benefits of the appreciation of a $5.25 million property. So it's an excellent opportunity for buyers to leverage their buying power with with a 25% interest in a property. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that as well. For you guys, we hope that you would see the opportunity to get into your databases and to talk to your people about purchasing in Maui. And we'll show you a little bit later some of the great options that we have. But for now, I just want to get through a couple more things here. How do agents participate in the sale, and how does the partnership with Cohana work? We take on listings anywhere in the country where we have an agent that sees the opportunity and is interested in partnering with us, right? So if you have a listing that's struggling to sell, you can call us. We'll partner with you. Your commission is unchanged, right? If we just took a $6.2 million listing yesterday, listed with an agent in Vail, Colorado. And what we did is we raised the price to 6.3 million because we have a 1.5% fee on every transaction that we do. And if we don't do the transaction, we don't get paid. So for you as a listing agent, you're going to get your commission regardless of how it sells. If you sell it, you get it. If we sell it, you still get your commission. We're adding our fee on to the price. So right, the $6.2 million listing, we raise it to 6.3, and then you divide that by 4, it comes out to 1,575,000 per 25% interest. So we're shifting our 1.5% fee onto the buyer by adding it onto the price. So for a seller, there's actually no reason why you wouldn't do it, because if we transact, we've raised the price to net full price for the owner. So nothing to lose there. The listing agent still gets their commission. And if there's four agents who come up with 1,575,000 buyers, they'll each share in the buy side commission. So you wouldn't be getting a $6.2 million commission, but you still can get a 1,575,000 commission on your buyer's purchase of the 25% interest. So everyone gets paid, everyone is incentivized. No one really loses anything with our program. The seller, if we don't sell it, we don't charge anything. And so ultimately, it's kind of a no lose for a seller, right? We're shifting the fee onto the buyer. We are bringing in a whole nother world of exposure to this listing. So while that agent's just trying to sell $6.2 million property, we're out there trying to sell 25% interest for 1,575,000. And that's a whole nother level of exposure and marketing for a $6.2 million listing, right? So it truly is a partnership. We bring a lot to the table because we offer a lot. We have our own lead generation campaign to try to find out our buyers while you're trying to find the $6.2 million buyer. And that would be through Google lead generation, through Brivity. We have a dedicated digital marketing person who does all our social media and all our e-blast to a database of 30,000 prospects and realtors. And we also require that if you partner with us in a listing, that you add to the realtor remarks something to the effect of seller is also considering the option of a 25% interest for 1,575,000. So that shows up in the remarks, and then everything else stays the same for you as a listing agent. But what it'll do is it'll result in a lot of exposure through Zillow and Redfin and all, and you'll be getting calls on how this works and what is this all about. And people are very curious about it. So we get a lot of, it sort of reinvigorates a listing. If you had a listing that was coming up for renewal and you were concerned about not getting the extension, we're like 100% success rate in meeting with an agent, the client on Zoom, explaining what we're doing, explaining how we're partnering with the agent, and explaining how we add our fee on so there's no real cost to the seller. Someone's raised their hand. Someone have a question?
There's actually two questions. I can read one to you from the comments, Dean, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
One of them is, who is the point person for owners once in partnership? Is it us, you and I, a member of the team? And how large is our team?
So we don't have a large team. You're looking at it right now. It's Noah and I.
Hey, guys.
But we do have, as I say, a digital marketing person. We have a virtual assistant, Chris, who's on the call as well. And we have CPAs and what have you involved with us as well too. A big part of what we're doing is managing these LLCs as well as facilitating the creation of the LLC. So the point person really is you, the listing agent. We have a partnership with the listing agent, and generally speaking, the listing agent is the conduit to the client. If we have to get on a Zoom call with the agent and the client, we'll do that, but we work with the agent. And so we're truly looking for agents who understand what we do, see the opportunity, are looking for a little creativity, something outside of the box to add to their arsenal of offerings and how to sell these listings and how to get listings. I mean, we're getting a lot of listings for a lot of agents because we're doing a lot of Zoom conferences with people and their clients to explain how we can bring a whole nother world of exposure to the listing, how we can add a whole nother level of marketing through Google, lead generation, through contacts with agents. The biggest opportunity for us is the agent community. I'm an agent with Keller Williams in the luxury division of Keller Williams. So we leverage heavily into Keller Williams networks. We're not a licensed business. Cohana Homes is unaffiliated, so we work with all brands, but we also leverage pretty deeply into the Keller Williams luxury brand because that's where we operate. And I am one of the 32 luxury ambassadors for Keller Williams Luxury. It's 185,000 agents in Keller Williams. So we have a tremendous ability to expose your listings to a massive audience through a Keller Williams um, luxury division that is familiar with what we do. They've endorsed our business and they understand what we do and how we can help them sell listings. But that's, as I say, not just for Keller Williams, but it is one of the ways that we get a lot of exposure.
Got a
Emma,
couple more here, Dean, if you want to. I'll read them to you. So this one is, how can we get information from Cohana on your current listings to help you advertise them? It's a good question.
good question.
And then they have a specific property in Vegas, but yeah, how can they get information on how to list our current listings?
Yeah, so that'd be great too. So I think that we're going to be a good contact for any of you who have questions or would like to participate in the program. And what we do is we can give you the marketing materials that you can use to pitch any of our listings anywhere in the country, right? So we have the verbiage for each listing that you can literally cut and paste into your email and circulate it to your database. And that's really what we're hoping you'll do. If you have clients, I mean, our business is becoming a lot, it's a different world that we're working in right now. And I think a lot of opportunity for real estate agents is not just in your local market that selling and buying properties, but also when you sell a listing, where are those people going? And where are they buying? And where are they coming from? And we start digging into those feeder markets to try to find these co-owners for you. So if you have a listing on Maui, we would be hitting the West Coast and all the feeder markets with this opportunity through the agents that we have, through our marketing, and try to get into those feeder markets and find co-buyers for your listing for you. So it's a true partnership. You will be the contact with the agent. We will be here to assist you, and we have our own program to generate our own leads as well. And we're happy to provide you with whatever marketing materials you need to help you sell these listings for us. Absolutely.
And then this one's from Charles Leo. How are the timelines for ownership established for owner vacations? For example, some want summer, some want fall, some
Right.
want, yeah.
Hey, Charles, how you doing? Thank you so much. That's a good question. I
Good to
think,
meet you,
how
Charles.
do you use these properties, right? What we do is once we get four owners together and you get them into this LLC, there's a couple different ways you can do it. One of them is almost like a fantasy football draft, right? So if you're a 25% owner on a property, you get 3 months of use, right? And we facilitate this draft on how we're going to share the use. So for the first year, for example, if we have four co-owners, whoever signs up first, number one priority, right? So for the first 1 month of your 3 months, we have a selection order of 1, 2, 3, 4. For the second month, it'll be priority number 4, 3, 2, 1 selection. And then the third month will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we have is, and then that order of selection rotates one position every year. So no one's locking in a time, a month. If everyone wanted Christmas, it would rotate every year because the priority would shift every year one position. So you'll get 3 months, 3 1 month increments spread throughout the year, um, in a selection order that would probably change every year so that you have flexibility on when exactly you're using it and when everyone wants to use it. But so far, we're not seeing too much of a problem with it. Most people are getting their first month that they want. And there's also trading and switching, and we can facilitate all of that. But we facilitate the selection process. It's generally going to be 3 1 month increments, and it'll be spread throughout the year in a selection order that will rotate every year one position. And that's the typical way we do it for communities that aren't facing severe restriction on use, like Maui, for example. Many of our communities in Maui have restrictions against that kind of use. And so the other way we would do it, for example, in Wailea at Ho'ole, Wailea Community Association has a no timeshare and no time sharing rule. And so what we do is in those cases, we basically go to the group when we put the property into escrow. Once we get the group together, we open escrow. We go to that group and we ask them to make their first reservation on the property for after we close. So everyone starts the ownership with one reservation in escrow. And what we do is you can't make another reservation until you use that reservation, right? So one reservation at a time is what we do for the most restrictive communities. And the reason why we do that is because the restrictive communities control how you use these properties. And what they're saying is that on Maui, for example, they've imposed a use ordinance of 180 days. So you can't on Maui do a draft type rotation system because it's a ongoing recurring annual use of the property, which is what they restrict you against. What they're trying to avoid is plans and programs and arrangements that have ongoing use of properties on an annual recurring basis, like fractional, for example. Fractional is no longer allowed on Maui, right? Because what you're doing is you're creating individual ownership interests that are locking in specific periods of time that you can use in the future. That is not allowed anymore in Maui. I shouldn't say it's not allowed, but you can't have more than two people doing that because it's a 180-day minimum on usage. Only in arranged, planned, organized, multi-year kind of program. So that's how communities can restrict timeshare, fractional, and other types of arrangements. But so what we do at Cohana Homes is different. We stay away from the use in those communities by doing one reservation at a time. And we just basically stay away. Our primary function at Cohana Homes is to lead generate and get four co-owners together in an LLC, provide the LLC documents, and manage the LLC, which means that we provide budgets, bill paying, we coordinate the insurance, we coordinate the tax returns, we handle all the communications between the partners. But what we don't do is get too deep into the vacation renting or how they're going to use the property. So we've sort of separated out our role as an LLC manager in this function to be able to avoid any kind of restrictions from the most restrictive communities like Maui, Napa, and some of the other areas. Does that make sense? Charles, I know you asked
Yes,
him. It
that
does?
makes
Okay, good.
sense. I
So
get it.
most of the time, it's going to depend on the zoning. That really is the determining factor. So for residential on Maui, which has a 6-month minimum for vacation renting, also now has a 6-month use ordinance so that you can't do more than two fractions. Vacation hotel zone properties that aren't in the resort like Wella don't have that restriction because the use is now 3, 4, 5 days like a typical hotel. So they don't have the ability to restrict. So you sort of have to look at the zoning before we can decide on how we're going to create the selection process, right? But everything else is set. Selection is sort of a separate issue. The majority of the issues are, the LLC, the terms of the LLC, the management of the LLC, communications with the members of the LLC. We make it very easy for owners because we do everything for them. We pay the bills. They just book their time and show up and enjoy, and then we do everything. We do everything else for them, with a coordinated date in the future where this partnership has agreed to sell together. That make sense?
And the last question in the comments is, what is our fee?
Good question. Our fee is 1.5% of the sale price. So, and again, we're willing to add that fee on, right? So I was just giving the example of the $6.2 million listing that we just took. We raised the price to 6.3 million to add our $90,000 fee, 1.5% onto the deal. So at the end of the day, the seller will net full price in a deal that we have with them, right? We're just adding our fee onto it, shifting the fee onto the buyer. So theoretically, there's really no cost to the seller or the agent to participate with us in this program. So
And can you explain the monthly management fee as well?
yeah, so once we take on the property and we get it up and rolling, so far we've charged $750 a month to manage the LLC, right? So that's divided by 4. That's not a whole lot. But I think that, and everyone wants us to be involved in the LLC management. What people don't want is for us to set up an LLC and then take off and leave them alone to figure it out themselves. That's the number one deterrent on partnerships. And then, as I mentioned before, number two is not wanting to have to communicate with the other co-owners when something goes wrong. Those are the two objections to partnership. So we basically created the scenario where, we're taking care of those issues for people, and we're not seeing people as hesitant to get into these arrangements anymore when we give them an exit and we facilitate all the conversations for them. Was that answer the question? No, I can't remember.
Yeah, you answered both parts of that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of how this can really work well for agents. Um, we have several situations now where we're dealing with owners who don't want to sell, right? So if you were lead generating or you're calling expired listings and someone said, I don't want to sell, I don't want to sell, our response is great. We're not here to ask you to sell. We're wondering whether you would be willing to take on 3 partners, become the 4th partner, go into an LLC, and in the case that I'm working on right now, dealing with an $8 million seller, I'm taking a seller who had no interest in selling and now has agreed to take on 3 partners who join him in an LLC for 5 years and then they sell the property. And the reason why he's interested in that is because he can get 6 of his 8 million back today. He can be left with still 25% interest, which means he still gets 3 months of use of the property, and he only used it 2 months a year for the last 10 years. So when you think about that, a seller that's carrying a lot of debt, we're dealing with a seller right now who has a $14 million condo on the ocean in Wailea, the Wailea Beach Villas, just amazing property. He has a $10 million loan on this property, and he's $7,500 a month maintenance fee, $15,000 a month property taxes. I mean, this guy is just that monthly bill is huge, right? So he's trying to figure out, he's being forced to sell. And I met with him last week and explained to him that there's another option here. The other option would be for me to find you 3 partners and you become the 4th. Look at the swing in this case, right? He's paying all those expenses, including a $10 million loan. If I can get him 3 partners to pay 3 million or 4 million each, he would be able to clear out his $10 million debt and he'd only have 1/4 of the expenses moving forward. So think of the swing there, right? That's $10 million loan, $7,500 a month, $15,000 a month to just 1/4 of the maintenance fee and the taxes. That's a massive swing for someone who's writing those big checks every month and not using the property and trying to vacation rent it to offset that expense. And so what's happened is vacation renting has become not such a great option for Maui owners. The expenses are way up high. The occupancy rates are low now on renting. So all of a sudden, operating costs have been the number one reason why people are selling. And we're speaking to people who really don't want to sell, but are being forced to sell. So we're giving them an opportunity to keep their units. We're just clearing out all their debt and leaving them with just 1/4 of the expenses moving forward. And that's a really great conversation for a lot of people who are sitting there taking strain, wanting to, needing to sell, but not really wanting to. And we're able to put them in a position to clear out their debt and be able to continue on and own your property. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that. And as I was explaining, and I'll get to you, Linda, thanks. It's a great deal for an owner when you think about it, right? They get 6 of the $8 million back. And for an agent, it's a great opportunity, right? You got someone who has no interest in selling. I've now created a $6 million transaction for them to sell 3/4 of the property, which is an opportunity to go reinvest, which is the second transaction. And then in 5 years' time, they're going to sell the property and I'm getting my 3rd transaction out of a client who had no interest in selling. And that is a really interesting way to manufacture business in a market where people are either reluctant to sell or not really wanting to sell. You can make someone's day by giving them an option to keep their unit, just get rid of all the expenses. Does that make sense? Linda, you have a question?
So then as far as expired listings go, we as agents are almost in competition with you securing the representation, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I'm not calling expired listings, but if you call an expired listing and someone answers the phone and said they have no interest in selling, you can say to them, have you thought about this idea of not selling, but me partnering with a company called Cohana Homes to find you 3 partners to be able to join you in an LLC so that you can get 6 of your 8 million back and still continue to own your property for another 5 years with just 1/4 of the expenses. We want you to be the person to do that. We're dealing with people around the country, so it's a little different that I'm an agent on Maui, but I'm not, I'm not competing with you in that sense. I'll give you an example. Keller, who is on the call with us today, she's a superstar at calling expired listings, and we work together with her. So she can offer co-ownership and Cohana anytime she's on a call and the opportunity comes up. And she has gotten 2 listings already that we've closed. One of them was 5.5 million. And then we just closed one a few weeks ago for $13.4 million. And that was a client that Keller called for 2 years on an expired listing before we were able to get an interview with the seller. And we got the interview, we got the listing, sold the property. So thank you, Keller, for that. But yeah, there's a good example. Keller is someone who calls expired listings. She's hustling out there trying to create business. And there's a lot of people calling expired listings, but no one has any creative and unique solutions to offer. It's the same old stuff. You know what I mean? There's nothing new, right? So if there's 7 million people on the sidelines, what it means is that what's been working in the past is no longer working very well. And that means that vacation renting is not that sexy anymore, with occupancy rates down and expenses up. So what is it? What are you going to offer these people, and why should they pick you? And
just to mention, can I just mention something really quick?
Yes, you can.
The 5.5 million expired listing, that guy never even met us, and he signed a listing agreement. So, and I just want to give it back to Dean, because Dean stepped in and with leveraging that Keller Williams luxury and all of our unique offerings, he just kind of has this clout about him that makes you want to sign anything over the phone and not even meeting. So you don't need to meet the sellers.
Yeah, we got on Zoom, and but the truth is, as Scott said, there's no one out there that's approaching these people with any good ideas. It's the same old stuff, and they don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? They want to hear what are you going to do that's different? And so you can tell them, well, this is what I'm going to do. And if you're interested, I can get Dean or Noah on a Zoom call next week, and they can go through the program with you and the client. So yeah, we're not trying to get the clients. We're trying to find agents who get it and are willing to partner with us to go get these deals done. And then once we get the listing, is to go out and try to find those buyers. And we expect you all to help us to try to find those buyers too, by putting a comment in the MLS remarks. And we'll give you the marketing material to be able to send out the top 10 reasons why co-ownership makes sense in 2025. Those kinds of flyers and things are really interesting. And what it is it's a unique idea. It's out of the box. You'll find that people are very intrigued by it, and you'll have conversations that will lead to getting the listing. Even if you don't get the co-ownership as a part of it, you are now engaged with someone giving some creative new ideas and new solutions, and most of the time we'll get those listings. One more question, Linda.
So how does the buy side work then?
Right. So let's just say you get the listing, we go out to the MLS, you put in the comments, hey, we got this $4 million listing and an opportunity to buy 25% interest for $1 million. And then and basically what we do is that we get into our lead generation program, which is that we'll take that listing, we'll e-blast it to 30,000 people, we'll put it on our social media, we'll put it on our website, and we have our own lead generation program about how we find co-owners for your property while you're trying to sell the $4 million listing, right? But also you're going to be the one fielding the calls of people questions. How does this work? What the hell is this $1 million? How do I buy this property for $1 million? And so that you'll have the verbiage to be able to cut and paste to respond to those inquiries and give them the basics, and then get us on a Zoom with them and you to be able to close the deal on the details of how it works. So basically we will add our fee onto that price. And so that if you were the listing agent and 4 agents came along with 4 $1 million buyers, they would get 25% of the buy side commission, right? And that group would basically we would facilitate a lot of the conversations and interviews between the partners to make sure that they all work well within our structure and that they all buy into the program. And once we got all those 4 people together, We create the LLC, and then we go back to the listing agent. We go, we have a buyer for you. So that's how it works. But getting the listings is the easy part. There's a real opportunity here to be able to find these co-buyers, because that's really where the money is. And the agents are the best people to be on the front line of having those conversations with those people. And it's kind of an easy conversation in the sense of it, LLC buys the property, then LLC sells the property in the future with an agreement between the parties to sell together. Right? So we don't break it up into pieces, we don't do fractional, we don't do timeshare, so that we make sure people understand that that's not our game. But because we have the agreement to sell together in the future, we stay in the lane of whole ownership, right? And we're doing what you guys are doing every day. LLC buys a property, LLC sells a property. We just facilitating this creation of a partnership on the front end of it. And this is a way to get through the next 5 years of this market that we're predicting is not going to be that great. Markets go up, they go down, right? And we know for a fact that our last two cycles in Hawaii have been 15 years. 1990 was the peak, 2005 was a peak. 2006 to 2021 to the next peak is 15 years. So markets don't go up forever. They always go through a correction after a peak. And the last peak was 2021. That was the unicorn year, peak market. And so we know since then, sales are way down, listings are coming up, the market is transitioning. It hasn't transitioned as fast as it has in the past because of low interest rates have propped up the lack of inventory, propped up pricing with very little inventory over the last 3 years. That's been a function of low interest rates. But typically that adjustment would happen quicker. This is not a bad market, right? This is actually a really strong market that's going through a slight correction right now. Nothing like 2008, where the market tanked after subprime lending fiasco. Interest rates are always a factor. Loans are always a factor in changing markets. The subprime fiasco caused the market to go down. The raising of rates now after 2021 is designed to cool the market off, right? And get those prices adjusted because they weren't adjusting. We're seeing it now. We're seeing prices adjusting everywhere. And so it's happening. But I think ultimately this is the time to be creative and come up with new solutions. And it's probably going to go through, in my opinion. If you look at the 15-year cycle, peaked in 21, that means up until 2028, we're in correction mode. And that from 2029 to 2036, well, where we'll see our next run of appreciation. That is consistent. Our cycles are predictable. If you go back and study the past cycles, it's very consistent. We're in year 4 of the 15-year cycle. And year 8 is when the market starts to appreciate again. So we have a few more years to go still, right? And that's what everyone's predicting. And that's why they're predicting it, because the history has shown that you kind of got to adjust before you can go back up again, right? There's this theory of 7 years is the ideal ownership period to own a property without losing, right? And the reason why Gary Keller says you always invest for no less than 7 years is because even if you bought at the peak of the market in 2021, if you just waited 7 years, the market will decline, but it will come back to the peak in 2021 in 7 years. And then the appreciation will occur from year 8 to year 15. So from a buyer's perspective, you just got to hang in there for 7 years. But from a seller's perspective, if you were someone considering selling today and thinking about maybe waiting, you can tell them straight up, you may be waiting for 4 years to end up in the same price based on the history of this cycle. It's a time to be creative this time. It's a time to think outside the box. There's nothing really positive that a seller wants to hear, because what they want to hear is prices are going up, interest is up, and that's not the case, right? So when you're delivering the bad news, and it's not bad news because it's actually a strong cycle. Our dip is really not much. 20% dip off the peak of a market is actually just fine, because we need that to transact to get to year 7 to be able to get to your appreciation again. So, the market is ripe for creativity. We still have 3 more years of flat market to slightly declining. And I think this is a great time to sell, because most people have a difficult time now, and we're all going to be super educated with creative solutions and new options that we can work our way through this time and manufacture deals. And that's what we're doing. So,
Hey, Dean, Kella has a question, but I have one last one here. Will you walk us through how the conversation would go if a renovation is needed?
okay, good question.
Does the partnership agree on style, colors, and furnishings?
Right, that's a great question. So typically what we
That right
do,
now. Yeah.
yeah, we assess, we have them, trust me. But we assess the quality and the condition of the property upfront as soon as we take on a property. And if it's a property that needs renovating or updating, what we do is we build that into the deal. So what we do is if it's a $4 million house that needs a $100,000 remodel, we'll be asking the partners for $1 million to purchase the property, but we're going to add on another 25,000 for their portion of the $100,000 remodel. So it'll be 1,025,000, right? Instead of a million. But what we do is we line it up at closing. The first thing that'll happen is that remodel will begin, or if you're refurnishing or whatever, it'll be done immediately at closing. Money already be budgeted. We're already consulted with a couple local interior designers, and we have some that we use depending on where it is. So we'll create a couple options for the people. And we've been interviewing and talking to these people, so we know a little bit about them and what they like and don't like. So we'll create two options. They pick an option, and we go with that option, and it happens at closing, and it gets done immediately. And then the use starts once the property is now refurnished or remodeled. And then we start our cycle of use. So it's kind of built into the front end. You pay up front. Remodels are much easier to sell to a group of 4 people than to one seller, because they're only paying a quarter. 100 grand for a remodel is only 25,000 per partner, and those are much easier to sell. And most of these people are pretty agreeable when it comes to picking colors and choices, because when you're in a sharing arrangement, it's not yours, like your final resting place, and it doesn't have to be exactly the way you want it. We find a kind of common ground for all parties to participate in, and we don't have any problem getting agreement on colors and what have you. Now, if someone comes along in year 2 and decides they would like to have the house painted pink, could be a problem. We'll go to the other owners and we'll ask them, do you want a pink house? And they'll probably say no. And so they will go back to the other owner and tell them, sorry, we couldn't get the approval of the other partners. And the house does need painting, you're right. Because we can't agree on color, it's going to be painted the exact same color, unless the partners can agree unanimously to change it. Right? So that's kind of how we handle that. I think that answers the question.
Yes, and Dean also sort of said this, but I agree with what he's saying here. Most people that are going to do this are people who are into sharing. They are people who understand, that other people have opinions and they're going to have votes. We have done a series of questionnaires and interviews with people. So we're not going to have 3 people that might want to paint and 1 person who doesn't. We're going to have 4 people that all want to go in on this together and do this, and that's part of our job, is that matchmaking. And then Kella, you had a question.
Yes, so I have 2 questions. The first one is when we talk about, like you had mentioned, there's, at the end of the 5 years, the owners have 3 options. So the first option you mentioned was continue with the LLC. And my question is, now, do you guys request an additional payment to extend? Or what does that look like,
No.
or do they not pay?
No, that's not a bad idea, though. I like that idea. We should charge a fee for that, right? An extension fee. But ultimately, it just continues on, right? If there's a unanimous agreement between the co-owners that they want to continue on, they don't want to sell, then we'll continue on as long as they want to continue on. It's only really when someone wants to sell or the group decides they don't want to do this anymore that we put it on the market and sell it. So first option is unanimous agreement to extend. Second option is one party wants to sell, 3 want to continue. We could facilitate a buyout where those 3 partners could buy the 4th out and continue on. So we'll do anything to try to get it to continue on for the owners. But if we get to a point where we simply can't work it out, we can't work out a unanimous agreement to extend, then the property goes on the market and it sells. But people think, oh, I may not want to sell after 5 years. Well, then great. Then we can continue on. You can buy out other partners and continue, or If the other three partners don't want to go, you can buy the property back, right? So there's a variety of buyout options and extension options, but ultimately, when you have a partnership that's in disagreement, you want to get out of it and move on. And that's really the way we do this, right? So it's fine until there's disagreement. And it could be that one party wants to sell, the others buy that one and continue on. So there's a variety of different options there, but it's going to be whatever the unanimous approval is. And without a unanimous approval, it goes on the market and sells. And everyone is fine with that. No one wants to be stuck with a piece of a property. That's a problem, right? So we assure our co-owners that if you get into a Cohana LLC, you will have a way to get out of it without being stuck with a piece of a property. That's key. Key to our program, because we want to stay in the lane of whole ownership on the resale, which is where we believe that you have the best opportunity to make or break appreciation or not, right? Once you break it up, we feel like you're giving up any chance for appreciation. But if you stick together and you try to time it right in the whole ownership market, it's the best chance to realize the best profit, best amount of appreciation. And that's really
so
what
that profit goes back to the owners,
goes straight
or
back to the owners. Yeah, we're not owners. We're just the LLC manager, ultimately executing on the operating agreement to make sure everyone plays nice. And and we handle all the conversations and make sure everyone is happy. Aaron.
Yeah, it's kind of rapid fire. Two questions. One is, so when you say we relist the home after 5 years, is the goal to exclusively relist it as a co-ownership sale?
No, actually, our goal is to keep the option open to sell it in the regular whole ownership market, just like any other
Right,
property.
okay.
You could offer co-ownership as well if you want.
Yeah.
That'll be
I guess,
determined by the owners.
yeah, that makes sense to go both ways.
Yeah.
And then two, if you guys, I don't know if you've explored this yet, but I heard you talking about one of the opportunities which I had thought of, and then you'd mentioned, right, saying, okay, I want to sell my home. I want to buy in as a 1/4 owner, right? And so I'm technically probably having to parlay or transfer my ownership, right? Or I'm going to have to buy into that LLC in one way, shape, or form. But can I sell my other shares as debt to avoid gains?
That's a good question.
Right? Because you're talking about a lot of money in some of these properties.
Yeah.
And if someone can kick the can down the road for their gains, can I sell you my quarter share and sell it to you as debt?
Gotcha. Yeah, so we have a guy in Maui. That's a great idea. Thank you. And we have a guy in Maui who's a builder. He's a developer. So what he's doing is he's going to build this house. It's going to be 5 million, right? So it'll take him 2 years to build it. He's going to sell 25% interest to parties and finance the entire amount, 100% financing. So and that for 7 years. So theoretically, he has a 9-year plan to not pay any taxes. And in year 9, when ultimately the property sells, he'll get his money back and he'll have to pay his capital gain at that time. But as someone with no debt, building a house, that seller financing is absolutely the way to do this if your seller can, because that makes it easy to get into. And financing as a member of an LLC is extremely difficult, because you can't encumber the asset. You can refinance your primary home, you can get a line of credit, you can go to private bank and do whatever you want, but we can't have the asset used as security on a loan. So basically it's all cash, unless you can refinance something else. But ultimately this guy is all about not paying taxes. So he's going to build his house, sell 100% financing to 4 people for 7 years, and then at the end of the 7 years sell, and then he's got to pay taxes. But that's a 9-year spread from day one when he starts construction. So people that are investors, these real estate guys, are very into the idea of not paying taxes. Even if you don't make money, you're saving a lot of money on taxes. But ultimately, that is a great way. When we create an LLC with an existing owner that stays on as a 25% member, we have to clear out their debt. So we have people that call us all the time and go, we want to sell 50%. I'm like, well, how much is your debt? And they go, 80%. I'm like, well, that's going to be kind of hard, right? So then we got to look to a different program. And generally 3 partners and them being the 4th gets us to the point of being able to eliminate all the debt, clean it out, go forward with just 1/4 of the expenses. But yeah, seller financing is a great opportunity to create these deals and make these deals happen. If you think about it, you buy a $4 million home for 1 million, and you're only putting down maybe $500,000 and financing 500,000. That's 500,000 cash to buy a $4 million house is really interesting for a lot of people. And it's not only the outlay of cash, but it's the ability to leverage a $5 million asset versus $1 million asset, which on Maui doesn't get you a whole lot. Couldn't buy a house on Maui for $1 million, but you can get a really great house for 5 million, for 4 million. You know what I'm saying? So for a buyer, it's a chance to leverage $1 million or $2 million, which on Maui still doesn't get you a whole lot, but you can get an $8 million house now with $2 million and use it for 3 months a year. And this is really geared towards people who are not moving here to live, right? These are people that are gonna use them as second homes. Yeah, no. Did you have a question?
No,
No?
no, it was
You're
sorry.
just leaving?
Different. I apologize.
No
Fake,
problem at
fake
all.
wave, fake wave. But no, yeah, and that is something in Oregon, Aaron. I'm approaching folks on the coast who have oceanfront or maybe something that's expired that, hey, we could put this listing out in our database where you can keep 25% because most people want to keep their house in Cannon Beach or Salishan or Arch Cape.
Yeah.
They don't know how to, they don't have this idea. So it's a really interesting way to get the attention of someone for sure.
Yes, exactly right. And they're getting bogged down with expenses is the truth. I mean, the biggest challenge right now is expenses. That's why everyone's selling right now, is they don't want to deal with it. Our property taxes are way up. I have a client in Pineapple Hill in Maui. Hey, he lives here, so he's an owner occupant. His taxes are less than 7,500 a year. He's thinking about moving to Nevada because he wants to try to take advantage of some tax savings, but he gives up his primary residence to become a second homeowner when he moves to Nevada. His taxes go up from 7,500 to 102,000. So that's the challenge right now. It's expenses, it's out of control in some places, and they're not being offset by any increase in vacation rental because occupancy rates are actually down. So while occupancy rates are down, expenses are up. Vacation renting is not such a great option as it was, and the alternative to vacation renting is sharing. So sharing mitigates the need to rent. If you're only going to pay for 3 months and 3 months of expenses, you don't need to cover those 9 months of expenses anymore. Those people are the people that vacation rent, and they try to scramble to pay expenses for 9 months when they're not there. And that's really that's what's bogging people down right now. So it's a great time for this in our market because the market's stalling a little bit and the lack of activity. And the solution that carried us through the last cycle isn't working very well anymore. So this is a great conversation for your people that you're dealing with. Aaron.
Yeah, just curious about the seller or the owner that maybe wasn't so interested in selling, but now he has the idea, oh, there's 3 other people that want to take on ownership with me for 5 years, let's say. Now, if he wants, because he wanted to keep the property, it's likely he's going to want to maybe buy it back at some
Good
point.
question. Yep. That's a great question. Thank you.
So if the market is up, then he might have to pay more. Yeah. And
You may
he's buying the other 3.
Yeah, I think that most owners who are giving up ownership in an LLC at the end of the 5 years, they want to have the first choice to buy it back. They always do for some reason. And whether they do or not, it's up to them. Could be a market, timing. It could be a variety of reasons, but there's always an option to buy it back if you get into one of these arrangements. And if the owner didn't buy it back, one of the other co-owners would have the chance to buy it back, or 2 of them, or 3 of them, they could continue on. But ultimately, when we get to the 5-year deadline, do you want to extend? No. Do the partners want to extend? Not really. The owner has the first choice to buy it back again and continue on. He's just bought 5 years of no expense, basically. But depending on their financial position, or for a lot of people, this is a great way to get to retirement, right? So if you pre-retirement, which is what most of our buyers are, they're still active, they're still making money, they're still spending money. If you were still working and looking to retire in 5 years, this would be a great way to get there, to share it with 3 other people for 5 years. And then when you're ready to retire, you buy it back and you can get to use it. That make sense? So there's a variety of reasons why you would do that. One is that exactly, that you're buying 5 years until you're ready to use it more. But also, it's dealing with expenses over the next 5 years in a market that's not appreciating. That's hard for sellers to do. Sellers are okay to write checks every month when they're not using it, when the market's appreciating. But when it flattens out, people are not as excited about that. That's why we're seeing so many people come on the market right now. So, but it's a great solution for people because people are being forced to sell is what's happening because of expenses. And so I'm saying, hey, you know what? We can help you not sell. I mean, I love that conversation with people. They're like, I'm not interested in selling. I'm not interested in selling. And we go, great. I'm not calling you to ask you to sell. I'm calling you to see if you're interested in taking on some partners and keeping your property, but getting rid of all your expenses and just being left with 1/4 of the expense of the operating costs without any debt. Most people are going to be like, damn, that's a good idea. It is. Every day we have the same conversation. And every day it's the same thing as we don't really want to sell, but the expenses are too high. Keller.
If there's,
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, sorry,
Go
Oh,
ahead.
I
if
was just
there's like a big appreciation in property prices in that 5 years, then they would typically, if that person wanted to buy all the three others out, then he would have to typically
They
pay
have to
more.
pay more. They have to pay
Yeah.
more, or they choose not to. You know what I mean? They choose not to and just say, hey, you know what? I don't want to buy it back. Let it go to the market and sell, and I'll get my remaining 25% back. But remember, he's already got 3 of his 4 million,
Yeah.
right? He got the three, if it's a $4 million property, at closing, they got 3 of the 4 million back. So that's not a bad deal. Who doesn't want three of their 4 million back right now who owns a property on Maui that only uses it 2 months a year?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to guarantee everyone will have that conversation with you, and just say, well, how does that work? And that's how it works. You get 3 of your 4 million back. You can decide in year 5 whether you want to buy it back for 5 million or 4 million. You can decide at that point whether you want to do that or not. But you don't have to. Or you could bump it out a couple more years and try to time the timing. Again, that's sort of a group decision, and that is the primary factor. Is if we get to year 5 and the market hasn't done anything, they may want to say, let's bump it to 7 years and see how the market looks in 7 years. We still enjoy this. It's awesome. It's working well. And if it's a property that's vacation rentable, you can theoretically use it for 2 months or 1 month and then put it in the rental program for the other 2 months if it's a legal rental, right? So again, that's even better. Now you got your expenses almost down to nothing, and you can easily cover 1/4 of your operating expenses by renting it for a month. We have an owner in Kauai that just used his month. He used 3 weeks and rented it for the last week, and that paid for his trip. You know what I mean? So the other thing that we do that's really interesting, in my opinion, is that we partnered with a company called Third Home, and Third Home is a home exchange company, right? So theoretically, in our partnership with Third Home, we can offer the option of vacation renting a property when you're not using it if it's legal, but also the option of taking a portion of that time when you're not going to be using your property and submitting that 2 weeks of time, whatever it is, into the Third Home Exchange, which is a home exchange company. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to make your home available for someone else to use in the program, but it gives you the option to use one of their 40,000 homes around the world for your 2 weeks. So I can go to you and say, as a buyer, I can go to you and say, hey, I have an opportunity to sell you this $4 million home. You could buy 25% interest for 1 million, which gives you 3 months of use of the property. You can use it for those 3 months. You can use it for 1 month vacation rent it. You can use it, vacation rent it, and take a portion of that, put it into the exchange, and go travel to Italy next year, or Africa, or China, wherever you want to go. And that's a really interesting proposal for a buyer to buy a 25% interest for $1 million, but build in all that flexibility of vacation rental option if it's legal. And then even if vacation rental wasn't legal, to be able to use it and then submit some time into the Third Home Exchange to be able to go travel around the world is a really interesting idea that no one else has really. Third Home is a very successful company. If you look up thirdhome.com, they have 40,000 homes around the world, up to $50 million. They're incredible. It's an incredible idea and program. And what's great about it is there's no financial transaction. There's no money changing hands. There's no taxable event. It's just it's kind of like the old days home swapping, right? You have a house in California, I have a house in Maui. You come use mine, I'll go use yours. But now what they do is you don't even have to find that other person. You just submit some time into the exchange when you're not going to be using it. Someone else with a home like yours will probably use it at some point. you have an option to upgrade. If you have a $5 million home and you want to go use a $50 million home, obviously there's a fee to upgrade. But if you use like-kind valuations, and Maui is very popular, man, that's three amazing options for a buyer to only invest 25% of the price, be able to do vacation renting if legal, and to be able to exchange it for use of other homes around the world. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's a conversation that I want to have with buyers versus pay the price and that's it. There's nothing else. What else are you going to offer them? Buyers are tough right now, man. 7 million buyers on the sidelines means that they're not getting it and they're not buying into our market right now. So if you go to those people, and that's literally 90% of our prospects that come to Maui don't buy because they can't use it enough to justify the investment, right? So if you go to those 7 million people that are thinking that way and say to them, hey, I have an idea for you. Instead of paying 4 million, which you don't want to do because you're on the sidelines, why don't you think about paying 1 million, getting 3 months of use, trading your use of it for homes around the world, and giving them all this amazing options that no one else is giving will result in business, I can guarantee you. So Third Home is a great program for us to partner with. We sort of play in the same sandbox. They're all vacation destinations. They cater to people who have vacation homes or aren't using them that much. And now we're partnering with them to offer this whole idea that not only can you trade use of your property, but you can actually invest 25% interest in it and still have all of these benefits of it. It's really the future, in my opinion, for the next 3 or 4 years. And maybe the future of second home markets around the country, in our opinion. Picasso is a great example. They're the leaders in this co-ownership space. Because it's such a massive organization, they started out with a $100 million war chest. Noah and I started out with $100. And they had 100 million, you know what I mean? So they were able to sort of barge their way into markets and just take ownership and take market share. But they also ran into the predicaments of communities resisting what they're doing. Picasso does, they buy a property, they raise the price 12%, and then they divide it 8 ways, and they sell it to 8 people. So if you're living in a home, you're living next to a home, a Picasso home, you have 8 different people using that property, and it could be 8 different people every year because they resell those partial interests along the way. Almost feels like vacation renting, right? And that's why they've been banned from Maui and Napa and Palm Springs and all these other places have been, I shouldn't say banned, they've been restricted through use ordinances, like on Maui, right? They've created this 180-day use ordinance, and that just screws up the whole Picasso program. We've looked at what Picasso has been doing. We've looked at the good things that they're doing. We looked at the mistakes they've made, and we've learned from them. So we don't resell partial interests. We don't do timeshare. We don't do fractional. We have this sort of whole ownership perspective on this co-ownership program, which is a different version of what of Picasso does, but it's much better received by communities because we're not flipping through and we're not multiple people. It doesn't feel like vacation renting. It's just 2, 3, or 4 people sharing a house for a set period of time that have agreed to sell together in the future. Most people don't resist that. It seems like normal, right? And we do partnerships of 2, 3, and 4. So 2 people. In the most restrictive communities, we can still do partnerships of 50-50. In the less restrictive, we go up to 4 people. But we think that 4 people is the magic number because it's not too many people where people don't feel like it's a legitimate asset. It's 8 feels like vacation renting to a lot of people. So we've sort of honed in on really what works the best for our communities and what's acceptable to our communities. And we stay under the radar of the restrictions that were put in place to prevent people like Picasso from operating. And that's primarily revolves around how they use the properties, right? And that, as I mentioned before, we have 2 different ways that we can handle it based on the zoning. So, does that answer your question, Anne? Yeah, okay, good. Keller.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, for the part-time communities here or wherever you are, I've been able to leverage escrow officers, and you can always request like address list for part-time residents in a particular community. I remember I have my Wailea part-time owners, right? And then they'll send you that whole list of all the part-time owners if that's, if you wanted to start lead generating in that sort of part-time sector and leveraging that.
It's easy to do, right? I mean, if you look at the owners list and the tax office records, you can see who's getting their taxes mailed to the mainland. And then so we just separate out the local addresses and we target the mainland addresses because we know they don't live here. But they want to hear about it. They want to know that there's new solutions. These properties are sitting and not selling. So my advice would be creative, throw out some creative solutions. You have a new tool in your toolbox now with Cohana Homes that you can get in front of anyone anytime and say, I partner with Cohana Homes and this is how it works, and as soon as it gets too complicated, you bring us in and we can help to facilitate the conversation. But it's definitely a way to get listings. We're doing it all the time. We're getting listings every day. We have 15 listings now in Maui that are offering co-ownership. And they range from, we have a property in Cohana Manor on the west side. I know Jeff is on the call. That's his property. And we have two parties interested in that already. So we're looking for two more. It's 250,000 for 25% interest. And where you're going to invest 250,000 and get a vacation rentable across the road from the ocean in a beautiful community of Cohana, it just doesn't exist, right? So, and it's just a new option that no one's thinking about, and it just creates a lot of conversation about it. So we're getting people. We have someone from Alaska who comes to Maui every year that's interested in that unit, and we're trying to work out the detail. We have a Sands of Cohana unit. We have a Montage. We have a couple of Bay Villa. We have a couple of Ridge Villa. We have two homes in Lanikeha. We have a home in Pu'unoa for $9 million. We have a property in Ho'ole. We have a Wailea Fairway Villas unit. And we have a house up in Kula. So we've got a little bit of everything. But you could sell any of them. If you do a newsletter, include it in your newsletter. Grab one of those properties and say, have you ever thought about buying this amazing Kula home for 50% interest for $1 million? And these are numbers that people are not used to hearing, right? So they typically would be we typically, if we have a $4 million listing, we don't target $1 million buyers. We target $4 million buyers who understand the benefit of, wait a second, I could buy this home for $1 million. I'm only going to use it 3 months a year, and I can share the expenses, which is the number one deal killer on Maui right now. So for us, it's looking at what are the challenges in the market. It's people can't use them enough to justify the expense, and the cost to own has gotten so high. Those are the two reasons why people won't buy Maui right now. So my opinion is, why don't you come up with a solution for those two issues that we're faced with, and Cohana really offers a perfect solution for both. That is the challenge in the market. We're going straight after those challenges because we know that 90% of people that come to Maui who would like to buy don't buy for those two reasons. So while you all are chasing the 10% that are buying, I'm chasing the 90% to bring them back into the market, because that's where the money is going to be in the future, and showing them a new way or some other creative option, because they're on the sidelines because they can't make sense out of it right now. I can make sense out of it for those people. And I think we should be targeting and marketing to those people who aren't buying and giving them a solution. Any other questions? What time is it? 10:15. Wow, an hour slipped by really quickly.
There is one more question if we're still on time.
What is that?
How do you handle questions about the LLC not making it for some reason in the future?
For not making?
How do you handle questions? There might be a typo here, but
well, how about the question of what if someone wants to get out of the LLC? Maybe that's what it is. So let's just say you do a 5-year term, and then
if we were not to make it, and there's an easy answer to that. Go ahead. If Cohana does not make it, how do we handle that?
Okay, yeah, good question.
It won't happen. But go ahead.
It won't happen. Yeah. No, if we facilitate the LLC arrangement and set up the documentation of how it's going to work and what's happening and who does what and who decides what, I mean, theoretically, they could choose whoever they want to manage it. But they all so far wanted us to stay on because we have the conversations, we know what they expect, we create the operating agreement, and they want us to hold true to that agreement through the whole term and not let them just go off on their own and then get into the situation where they start arguing and trying to figure out stuff between each other. That's probably the number one thing. You would think that they wouldn't want to pay for management, but the truth is that anyone with $6 million absolutely wants management, and they want us to stay involved the entire way through the thing because they don't want to have to deal with it. They don't want to pay the bills, find out who didn't pay, call people for checks, have discussions about who broke stuff or who's paying. No one wants to do that. That's going to be the reason why they don't want to do this. And so I would say that we don't have anyone. We did have one case in Colorado where they didn't want to take on their own management, but it was a $750,000 property that they were trying to carve up. And so we found that the lower price points want to save more money maybe, and they don't want to spend more. But anyone that has, the kind of money that we're talking about, they want to know that they can get out of this deal. They want to know that someone's going to manage this thing all the way through so that they don't have to. And then the other question was, what if someone wants to get out after 2 to 3 years on a 5-year program? And yeah, we discourage that for the most part because we're really trying to hold true to whole ownership. So we would try to facilitate the potential of someone wanting to get out. We'd try to get the other 3 people to buy them out. If that party defaulted, for example, which would be one of the concerns that most people have, is one of the reasons why we're so big on having the set exit strategy, because if someone defaulted in year 3 and the other 3 owners chose not to buy their interest back, but were willing to pay the expenses from up until year 5, and that would be a case where the property would go in the market and sell because no one wants to continue that partnership, right? If they choose not to buy that person out. But you could carry that defaulting party's cost up to closing, and you would get it back at closing plus 10% interest on that loan you've given to the defaulting party. So if you default, it basically dilutes your share of the proceeds when the sale happens in 5 years. And that'd be a case where you're going to want to do the sale in 5 years. No one's going to agree to extend a defaulting situation forward, right? So that would be a case where you get to 5 years, sell the property, get your money back plus 10% interest. The defaulting party loses whatever they've not paid plus 10%. And we can set the interest rate at whatever is legal. But we just use 10% as a round number. But so, there's a way to get out of it in any case. Even if there's default, you have the solution. Having a defined exit allows you to accommodate default, even though it sounds weird. But it allows you to not have to buy that person out. You can make them suffer their way through 5 years, pay for them, and then get that portion of their money at the end. So I think that makes sense. So please go to our website, kohanahomes.com. I've thrown out a bunch of the listings that we currently have, but you can check it out on our website and see what we have for sale. Pick some of those properties or all of them that you would like to try and sell. Let us know. We'll provide you with the verbiage to be able to put into your marketing to be able to try and sell it. And let's see if we can go find some buyers for some of these properties and manufacture some business out of those databases that you guys already have that you haven't been able to get off the dime. You know what I mean? So, and it'll be a great conversation. I think people are very intrigued by this. So I think it's something to work with. And if it's a slow market, it's a perfect time to start throwing out some creative solutions. Any other questions before we dash off? It's taken longer than I wanted to, but there's always a lot of questions. And I know you probably will have questions when you hang up, and please feel free to reach out to us. I think you all have our emails or what have you, or on our social media, and just give us a buzz if you have any questions, or if you want to set up a time where we can meet individually and we can give you some of the marketing materials that we can, you can use. Just let us know. We'd be happy to jump on a Zoom call with you. So kohanahomes.com. Our email is kohanahomes@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to Noah or I, and we can help you with properties that you're trying to get listed, or properties you're trying to sell, or just generally trying to manufacture deals out of getting buyers. We have homes up to $50 million on our website. So $12.5 million, 25% interest is still a good payday. Yeah. And then if you have people that don't want to sell, but also are struggling with expenses, because that's every phone call I have with an owner right now is like expenses, expenses, expenses. You have something to engage with them on. Say, hey, I can take care of those for you. You know, I can help you here. I can get, I can get you to, I can create a scenario where you get to keep your property. Is people love the conversation, not because every realtor is calling people and go like, you know, will you sell? Will you sell? You know, I like to have calling people up and go, hey, I'm not trying to get you to sell. I'm just trying to see if I can make sense out of your situation and whether I can help you with the partnership, eliminate all your expenses and own this thing without stress. Make sense? Awesome, guys.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
any other questions? I'm going to jump off here and wait to hear back from you with any other questions. But
Thank
you
you
guys,
so much. This was wonderful. It's such a great idea.
right? Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you,
Yep.
Dean. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Call if you have questions. Let us help you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Aaron.